Hi and welcome to another video of Frank Answers Your Questions. During the week I received an email from somebody and they asked me what kind of tasks do most people do in their work environment. In other words, where do the tasks come from? And I thought it was an interesting question because, to be honest, I've never really even thought about it, because what tends to happen is most of us go into the work, we do our tasks, we go home and that's it. But we never really look and say, well, where did my day go, and on what kind of tasks did it go on? And I know that no matter what I do or what I say here, every business is different. And some people relate to every word I say, and some people say, well, in our industry it's slightly different. And of course it will, because every industry is different. However, when I started to look at the tasks, I started to break them down into various areas. And I suppose the first tasks that a lot of people have to carry out are those that are given to them by their boss. And I'm going to call these boss imposed. These are the tasks where your boss arrives at your desk and says, this needs to be done. But normally, they quite often say, this needs to be done now, or this needs to be done urgent, or this needs to be done quickly, or whatever. And one of the difficulties with boss imposed tasks is that they generally, depending on the boss you work for, and of course it's very much dependent on the boss you work for, they're generally, in the boss's mind, top priority. Now the problem with that is that if every task that you receive from your boss is highly urgent and highly important, then that probably means that none of them are highly urgent and highly important, because not everything can have the same level of priority. So what we've got to remember when we get boss imposed tasks is that, I know that the boss will always say it needs to be done now, it's urgent, it's important and everything, but we've probably got to get good at actually making that decision with the boss. In other words, kind of trying to get to a stage where we say, okay, well, look, this is what I'm currently working on now. Is this more important? Is this more urgent, etc.? And making a decision together. Because you can't just drop everything and just go with the next thing that arrives on your desk. The other kind of tasks that are important, that come up, that most people work on during the day, are what's called system imposed or maintenance type tasks. These are tasks such as reports. These are tasks that might be generated by a system that you use. They might be, periodical reports. They may be reports that, for example, the payroll has to be done on the second Monday of every month, or whatever it may be. And these are generated tasks that have to be done by a system or something of that nature. They're routine, but they have to be done. And that's another area where tasks come from. Another area where tasks come from are your own people. Either your peer group or maybe the people who work for you, your subordinates. And if you are getting tasks that are kind of coming from your subordinates, I suppose one question you have to keep asking yourself is, whose job is it? Should I be doing this or should they be doing this? You see, the difficulty is that when we manage people, and particularly when you're in a role of a supervisor or a team leader or something of that nature, it's a thing called the people paradox. You have to be there for your people and for your team, and you have to be there to support and to guide and to help and all of these things, and to manage and to supervise them and everything like that. But you'll also have your own tasks that you need to get done. And getting that balance right is very, very difficult. And it's called the people paradox. And what happens quite a lot is if you get that balance wrong, you will end up having lots of people coming to you and taking on lots of their tasks if you're not careful. And one thing that I just want to say to you is you should always avoid, when somebody meets you in the corridor or something like that, a subordinate, and they've got a task that they're struggling on, don't say, leave it with me. Because what actually happens when you do that is it jumps from the subordinate's to-do list onto your to-do list. And it's, there was a management thing years ago, I think it's an American thing, that talked about, the monkey on the back syndrome, who's carrying the monkeys. And if at the end of the day, you keep taking on tasks that are part of your team's role to do, you're going to end up with a lot more tasks to do. Your to-do list is getting greater while theirs is getting smaller. So be very, very careful of that. And then finally, the tasks that we do probably want to be spending our time on and sometimes never get round to are the self-imposed tasks. And these are the tasks that you decide yourself that are important to do. These are the tasks that often don't have a deadline and therefore get put on the long finger and the long finger and the long finger, and we never get round to. But these are things that we say, look, I'd love to do X, Y, Z. And these can be linked to your life or to your job, and these are our self-imposed tasks. And if we don't find room for these, because some of these other things are getting in the way, then we're going to struggle. So we always have to try and get that balance right. So the kind of key tasks there are boss imposed, always top priority. You need to decide with the boss, are they top priority? System imposed, things that are generated by procedures and processes and systems and everything like that are regular and consistent, and what some people call maintenance tasks. And then there's subordinate tasks, which are tasks that maybe your team bring to you that maybe they should be doing. And just be careful that you don't take on too much of their work and you try and manage that effectively. Of course, you've got to be there to support them and guide them, but you don't have to be there at every second for that. You have to be there at given times. Yes, I accept that. And then self-impose is what is important to you in terms of your job and your life. So hopefully that's helped to answer the question that was posed to me, such as, what are the tasks that we carry out? And it is a good question, because most of us just go into our day's work, do our tasks and go home. But often think and look and say, well, okay, where did these tasks come from, and can I manage them any better? So I hope you got something away from that today. My name is Frank from Premier Training, and please thank you for listening to this, and please feel free to listen to any other videos that we have on Frank Answers Your Questions. Again, thanks for tuning in. Speak soon. Thank you.